Come and dream with me.
Hello, welcome to Beers What Do You Want to Watch Spoilercast for Trakt Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I'm Ashley Hobley. Joining me today, Dylan Blight.
Very happy to be here to talk about one of the greatest martial arts films of all time.
Yes, in a week in which a massive, we assume, martial arts film in Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings is about to release, we figured we'd go back to, one of the biggest ever. Ang Lee's classic, which I've never watched before. So please be aware we'll be freely discussing anything and everything about the plot themes and any of the films. If you haven't watched it, come back later. It is currently, at time of release, streaming on Netflix here in Australia. So with that said, let's jump into our discussion of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, directed by Ang Lee, screenplay by Wang, Hui-ling, James Schamus, Jung, Tsai, based on Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon by Wang Dulu, starring Chow Yun-fat, Michelle Yeoh, Zhang Ziyi, Chang Chen, Sihung, Cheng Pei-pei. Master Lee, a warrior, asks Yushu-lin, the woman he loves, to pass on his sword, Green Destiny, to Sir Tsai. However, when the sword is stolen, Lee embarks on a mission to find it. Dylan, do you want to share your thoughts on Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon?
It's an amazing film. I've watched it, I think, this is probably my fourth or fifth time, I think. First watched it in grade 7, and I've watched it a couple times over the years since now. I don't know, it's just, it was like, obviously, so probably it was, Academy Awards and all that sort of stuff, so it was very. I'm surprised I'm not really surprised, honestly, that you haven't watched it.
No.
But I'll add it to the list of stuff.
I just remembered who I was talking to.
Yeah, like for anyone else, I may be surprised because I forget you only started watching movies in 2017. But this was a very talked about, popular, movie, buzzed up, especially I guess, movie. For mostly the fight scenes, because you got the whole weightless fight and all that, and at the time that was sort of this whole like mind-blowing thing or whatever else. And I did open the show saying, one of the greatest martial arts movies of all time, which I would say it is, but it's a weird one because it's basically a fantasy film, or more or less. Like, it's not a like realistic martial arts movie, or like meant to be like a gritty martial arts movie. Like, if this was made, you could nearly translate this to a Disney movie, like maybe with less violence or whatever, but like there is a world in which I think you could very easily take this and just make it into a Disney movie, because it is sort of a fantasy tale where it's got a romance and it's got these sort of like what sounds like complicated in the first 5-10 minutes of the movie when you're hearing all these names, but when you boil it down, what's actually happening is very simple. Like, but when you actually get into the characters and the reasons behind certain characters doing things and whatever else, by the time you get to the movie, you're like, oh, it seems epicer than kind of what it is, but it's just sort of this core cast, very simple thing about a sword. And then the star of the movie, of course, turns out to be Jen, who, she's actually sort of the lead or the main character, and this sort of girl but trapped between it, and again, very fantasy Disney-like or fable-like thing where it's literally characters stuck between family and family requirements and love and what they want, and it's a very that's what I'm saying, like it's a very fable-like or fantasy-like film when you boil it down. But it's very well acted, it's shot really, really well, it has these really great fight scenes that were very inventive at the time and I still think hold up and very exciting to watch. I think even with the whole limitless, like weightless running and all that sort of stuff, when you get into the actual fight scenes, they're just choreographed so well. And there's like the way the music's used and not used a lot in those, super engaging. I love how it also has like the sort of break in the middle where it's like, all right, flashback time to this romance, like out of nowhere and all this sort of stuff. But I think it's definitely, sort of in those lists of X top whatever movies that you should watch before you die. Like, I would definitely put it in my list, Dylan's version of that sort of list. And I've watched it a few times now, so I couldn't say I definitely, and I still enjoy it. I still enjoyed it on this rewatch. fight scenes are still great, story's still simple and great, performances are really, really great. It's just one of those one-of-a-kind movies, I think. Fuck you.
No,
End the
I
podcast.
liked it. I don't know that it's aged gracefully would be my first thing. There are certain elements that well, there's like one or two fights that are like, yeah, that doesn't look great, or that kind of thing. I feel like while you love that like massive romance flashback in the middle of the film, I felt like that was very disjointed and out of place and like very weird to like suddenly throw up like 2/3 of the way through the movie that this is the massive, she's got a mass secret lover that she's had this entire time, and that's kind of, you know, it didn't like flow very well. But you know, like you said, a lot of the action sequences look really cool. They were just unfortunately very far and few between. I feel like I wish there'd been more action set pieces. Obviously, like the massive fight in the inn, I thought looked like incredible, like sequence put together. Or even the running across the rooftops at the start after she steals the sword. That was really cool. But yeah, I don't know. I can understand why it would be appealing because obviously it looks so different to anything else that's would have come out before. But I know it just kind of feels like it's just a really like well-made film. It looks very pretty, but yeah, there's certain elements that just didn't click for me. But yeah, the scene, the fight in the trees, that just didn't work for me. It's like,
why?
Just I don't know, just why they're just running through trees. It just looked weird, and you know, it's like the movement just didn't fit with anything else. Like there just seemed to be, I don't know, it didn't work for me. You know.
No, Master Lee's on that shit. It only looks crazy because Jen doesn't know what the fuck she's doing.
I guess that's a fair point, you know. But there a lot of the other fights fantastic, like the first fight against Jade Fox in where the dude gets a massive knife to his head. Yep. Cool fight.
It's absolutely fucked up.
Like pretty brutal. But then you never get anything that brutal ever again in the rest of the film. It's like,
no. I don't think it needs to be brutal. Like,
no, I don't think so.
The thing is, like, the film is technically like Jade Fox is like, I guess the film almost boils down to a story about like Jen stuck between literally like a devil on one shoulder and an angel on the other. But because she's sort of neutral, like she's not really killing anyone because she's not a bad guy, even if she's like teetering on that throughout the movie. So she isn't killing anyone in her fight scenes. Master Lee only wants to kill Jade Fox. Jade Fox is the only proper bad guy in it, and that's the only person you ever see kill anyone because she is she kills two people, I guess, by then. Because she's the only bad guy. The rest of the characters aren't trying to kill anyone in any of the fights. Because that's the other thing. All the fight scenes are people simply trying to
stop somebody or get away.
Stop someone. Yeah, so you don't really have much violence in that regard.
No. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting, like, why this film, like, kind of clicked with American audiences, made so much money. To me,
I think it was the fight scenes at the time. They were definitely they were definitely more groundbreaking in 2000, whenever this came out. When did it come out? 2000. Fuck. Yeah. It came out in exactly 2000. Yeah, so a lot more groundbreaking in 2000. And don't forget, this is coming out the year after, I think. I think Matrix is 1999, right? I think that's right. No? Was it after?
I would have thought Matrix would have been after.
Was the Matrix 2001 or something? No, the Matrix is 1999. There you go. I just did it.
Okay,
quick. So yeah, my point was context-wise, Matrix 1999, similar sort of like style. Like a very different movie. That movie is a lot more violent. Completely different sort of like grounding in which the martial arts is being used in those movies and sort of the core message of those movies. But this movie, I think a year after Matrix or even less than releases, and it has people flying around, running on walls and all that sort of stuff. I think America at the time would have definitely
ended up
grabbed onto it more because the Matrix at the time was like sort of devouring the world especially America. Like that movie was super popular, so I think that would have helped this get an audience.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Obviously, like certain things, like obviously it's very progressive. Like women are like the major characters of the film, a massive action film. Sure, one of them's trying to make the other be like a good housewife or whatever, but you know, I feel like that element is
Michelle
also rushed.
Yeoh.
Yeah, Michelle Yeoh is like just be.
She's not like trying it. She's like, you need to go back and sort out your family and then decide what to do with your. Because she tells her like you can't run. You can run from. I can't remember the exact line, but she basically tells her in that one scene that you'll be running forever, whatever else, and you can try and run from the wedding, but you can't run from your parents forever. So go back, sort out shit with your parents, and then decide what you're going to do with the marriage. Like, I've never taken that as her saying, go be a housewife. I've taken that as her more being like, face your adversity or whatever. Like, face, if the parents are the problem and you don't want to do something, you need to face that head on and not spend your whole life running from it. Not actually go be a housewife.
That's fair. Do you have a favorite action sequence?
It's fucking hard to pick, eh? Probably the first one, actually. I just like I don't know. Just any of the fights between Michelle Yeoh and
Ziyi.
Any of those two, both their fights, I think are my favorite.
Yeah.
Just any of the two where they go. They have like good chemistry, fight chemistry or whatever. Some of the Master Lee stuff is good, I guess, like, but it's less engaging because he's so good that you don't have that sort of fret or feeling that something could happen. He's just sort of like, he's not going to lose until he does, I guess, when he finally cops it or whatever. That's the interesting thing about this movie is like he's on the front cover and he's introduced as the best, like the toughest person in the movie or whatever else.
Yeah.
You think he's like sort of the lead character, but he's basically a supporting character. Like if I was to pick like the main character, it's definitely Jen, and then I'd say Michelle Yeoh's character is the her.
Yeah. Well, I think
second.
Michelle Yeoh's the protagonist, and
yeah. Well,
Jen
it's funny.
more...
Yeah, I think she is kind of, but I don't know. Over the times of watching it, I just think the movie's about Jen. Like the movie's about her character, even if that's not how it starts.
Yeah. I think obviously Chow Yun-fat was put on the cover because, his previous work.
Yeah. But yeah, into the whole like progressive thing, that is another part. 2000, and the main characters of the movie are, it's just three, if going off what I'm saying the main character of the movie is a girl, the other main character is a girl, and then the bad guy is a girl, and then actually the main male character, Chow Yun-fat's character, Master Lee, is sort of like this guiding force, whatever that comes in or whatever. But I never really think of him as like one of the main characters in the movie because his character doesn't really have an arc. He's just a character, which I don't think is a negative for the movie because it works in the sort of fantasy martial arts like setting or whatever, having that, the one character who's trying to save the girl and he's all powerful, like knows all these, like he's unbeatable and all that sort of stuff. But he's like, his core thing is he just wants revenge for his master being killed. But that's never driven as a core part of the movie. Like that's something they introduce, but they
it's
never
like
drum that home. Yeah, it's like it's a thing.
Okay.
But he's always like sort of making it out like his main concern is actually just to save the girl from the dark side, if you will, and then get revenge. It's never like I want revenge first. It's always just like save her from
revenge
the dark
would
side.
be nice, but
Revenge will be nice after the fact. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. How do you feel? What do you think of the massive flashback? I feel like it's a little bit cliche at this point. The two people that are bickering the entire time suddenly fall in love. Yeah,
it is very cliche, but I think again I don't mind it because as I was saying, I just think the movie's like a fantasy film. And I mean, if you read up about it, apparently it is based on, or at least supposed to be.
Yeah, well, the books are like 500 years old or something.
Yeah, so it's like Chinese fantasy, like whatever sort of stuff. So I definitely feel like there's could be some like lost in translation depending on like outside. Maybe if you are born, I guess. China, you might know more. I don't know. Like this is one of those things where I'm like, is there more to this than meets the eye if you're living outside? But yeah, I mean, you read up about it and you hear it's like based on these fantasies and stuff like that. And then you watch the movie and it has this very sort of stereotypical romance scene where two characters fall in love, or one whatever else. And again, that just feels like something that could be out of a fucking Disney movie. Because Disney just rips off all of our cultures, like things, and turns them into animated movies, or that's what they did for a long period there. I mean, literally just like picture Aladdin and Jasmine. There you go. You know what I mean? Like it's very similar, sort of like force you into loving me scenario that seems like it's like typical fantasy type thing. If this sort of romance came out today, or was like a modern thing, I'd be like, this is stupid. But yeah, I don't know. It gets past for me because obviously I watched it when it came out years and years and years ago. Well, not when it exactly came out, but watched it in grade 7 or whatever. But yeah, I know. I don't really judge it, no.
No. Well, I look forward to seeing more of Michelle Yeoh, you know, channeling her character in this, and hopefully in Shang-Chi. And like, it's kind of weird seeing her like this. Obviously, she looks so young, and like having seen her in other stuff more recently, like Star Trek Discovery and Gunpowder Milkshake. It's like, wow, she's still kind of got it. It's like, sure, she's not as floaty as she is in this. It's like, but yeah.
So she was in one of these sorts of movies
I'm sure she
early
was.
in her career and whatever else. And then they did a sequel.
Yes.
I'd never watched it.
She's
I got really
it,
excited. Yeah, they got really excited when they announced it.
So it's her and Tony. Coincidentally, her and Tony Leung, I think.
Who?
Tony
It's
Leung.
her and Donnie Yen.
Donnie Yen, sorry, my bad.
Donnie Yen's the main character, which I'm a big fan of, obviously.
Yeah.
And I got really excited to watch it, and then I remember early reviews dropping, and people were like giving it bad reviews and saying it's old style, no something. It's lots of really cool fight scenes, but they completely missed the point of the original movie. It doesn't have the heart and all this sort of stuff. And I put it on my list of like, maybe I'll watch it one day, and I've literally never even bothered pressing play. No. Like instead, I rewatched this in 2006. So Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Sword of Destiny, released in 2016. It means the last time I watched this was in 2016 because I was getting ready to watch the sequel. And then those reviews dropped and I never actually rewatched it. And now I've rewatched this again. So I've watched this movie twice since the sequel came out, and both times I've never bothered watching the sequel.
Yeah, it sounds like it's not worth the effort. But yeah, let us know what you thought of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. By letting us know on Twitter at explosion.com/Twitter. You can find both of us, our Twitter handles, at that link, or you can jump to our Discord at explosion.com/Discord. Leave us a review for what you want to watch on Apple Podcasts or on Podchaser, or tell people about the show on Twitter or in person if you can still do that. You know, COVID, right? If you like this episode and thought it was worth $1, head on over to our Ko-fi page at explosion.com/support and buy us a coffee. Thank you very much for listening, and until next time, keep watching stuff, I guess.